Alright, welcome to 6 Gun Guitars Luthier's Lessons video series. In this one we're going to show you how to install some custom-made fret dots that we made in an earlier video on the plug cutter. Again, these dots, I've got a whole bunch of them here. They're just made with a 3/8" plug cutter. Available at every hardware store. Refer to the earlier video if you want to see details on how we made all these. Now what we're going to do is come over and we're going to lay them out for install on the fretboard. So the easiest way to do this is to find the center on the fretboard. And you want to find the center of each box that you're going to be installing in. So in this case here, the 3rd fret, I'm just going to install it on the 3rd fret here. So I'm going to take a ruler and I'm going to connect the 2 corners of the fret box here with a nice line. Then I'm going to come over and I'm going to do the same thing for the other 2 corners. And what this winds up doing is putting a nice X right in the middle of that fret box where we need to drill for the dot. I take my little scratch tool here, and right in the center of that X I'm going to poke just a little indentation for the Forstner bit that I've got coming up next to grab onto. So that way we drill a nice even hole right in the center. And we can see that hole in there now. This is a Forstner bit available at every hardware store. What it does is it cuts a nice square bottom and nice square sides versus a drill bit where it's going to be rounded at first until it starts to get square. And it also has this tiny little point at the tip here, which lets you locate it on the hole that we just dented in, so that way you know you're going to get it right and you know it's going to be accurate. This doesn't walk away as much as a drill bit does. So what you want to do in this case now is clamp the board down. Come over with the drill and line it up on the hole that we made and then drill. Now you got to stop every once in a while. I got lucky this time, but you got to stop every once in a while just to make sure that you're not going too deeply, because the plug that you make is going to determine the depth. Because obviously if we inlay something any deeper than the plug that we have for it, it's not going to work out too well for the inlay, because we want to always inlay things slightly higher than the hole that we dig for them, so you can come back and scrape them flush and sand them flush and you get a flawless inlay that way. So now what we're going to want to do is fill this hole with glue and load the inlay into it. So the way that we do that is come over to the glue. And the thing with the glue on this one is you want to make sure you get it really good on the side walls of the inlay. So that way there isn't any gaps or anything like that. The glue is going to naturally fill those little gaps on there. So that way, just in case it didn't come out exactly 100% perfect, the glue will kind of hide it for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my rosewood dot here in this case and fit it by finger here. You shouldn't have to hammer it in. Sometimes you do if the wood grows or shrinks really quickly because of the added moisture of the glue. But you can usually get it in by hand. If you do have to hammer it in, go slowly so that way you don't wind up breaking anything or marring the fretboard. And there's a reason that you'd have to hammer it in. If you're having to beat the heck out of it, the hole's not right or there's something wrong, you need to check that. Make sure there's no gunk on the edges of the inlay that you're trying to push in, because this is a press fit. The hole is 3/8 and so is the plug, so it's a really tight fit already. You know, you're actually going to have to push a little bit. So, but there it is. It's got the glue in there, and we'll let that dry. And when it dries, all we got to do is come back and with a sander or with a scraper. I prefer a sander in this case, just because a scraper, this is too small to scrape. And resist the temptation to come back with a chisel first to pop off as much as you can, because a lot of times it's going to take grain with it and it'll wind up popping out pieces that are a little deeper than the fretboard itself, and then you wind up with an inlay that looks terrible. So next thing I would do is come to the next box that I'm going to put a inlay in, and I would measure again from corner to corner and draw a line. That makes my center. Punch out my center so that way I can see it and that way the drill can find it. Come back and drill the center and go ahead and keep on repeating all the way down the line for all the fret dots. Once that's done again, come back and sand them flush, and you'll have a really nice set of custom fret dots installed in a fretboard.